Okay, friends and hackers, now comes the fun part. We'll walk you through the installation. We have a bunch of hackers around to help you, all in black T-shirts with the hacker name on them. So holler at them if you need anything. All the stuff I'm going to talk to you through are also going to be on the README on the sticks. Okay? So for today's demos, so we need Java 1.7 plus. We need I know that's. Okay. All right. I like my voice on stage better. All right, I have Brandon here with me, and he's going to talk you through.
Sure, okay. Sure. So basically, to do today's demos, you're going to need Java 1.7, R3.2. That's just suggested. So essentially, if you have something lower, that should work so long as it's in the 3 series, but the upgrade to 3.2 is suggested. Python 2.7 is a requirement. If you have Python 3, anything in the 3 range, we do have an H2O virtual machine that you can use, or if you can figure out how to have both 2.7 and 3 working together on the machine, that also can work. The demos just require 2.7. We're actually going to be upgrading H2O to use Python 3 very shortly. We just did make it in time for this. And then we'll be, of course, installing H2O, the latest version, released Tib Shirani. And the final thing is to put in the tutorials in the data folder. So let's see, finding out what you need for Windows. What we've done is, for all the OSs, we've put in a small script, or a series of scripts in the case of Windows, to figure out what you do have installed or don't have installed. Can I get a raise of hands? How many people actually have H2O installed? Oh, wow, this is going to be great. How many of those have the latest version? You guys are great. This is going to be so easy. So now, one note to make. Some of these installs, if you do need to do them, will take a little bit of time, but we don't actually have a need for them until 10 o'clock on this stage, and then the other stage, it's at 10:45, I think, is the first talk requiring the hands-on demo stuff work. So you've got time. I'm just going to run through it all now. Now, every OS has a folder on the flash drive that you'll see. In that folder, there is a README for the OS. All I'm going to be saying up here is no new information. So if you go through that, you are on your way to getting it installed. If you do need the virtual machine, now would be a great time to raise your hand. Essentially what the virtual machine is, it's just got everything all installed. You would need VirtualBox, or you can install VirtualBox, and then you'll fire up the virtual machine. It's just a small Linux install. Problem with the virtual machine is that your execution of things will be a little bit slower, and you'll see a little bit of slowdown in the performance. So we do recommend the native install. Now, so for Windows, we've got the instructions here. As I said, they're also in the README on how to check. Do you have the right Java version, the right R version, the right Python version? You run those commands, and it'll tell you whether you're good or not. Now, a small note. You actually only need the JRE for the Java runtime environment. For all the demos except for one, building smarter applications, that actually needs the JDK because it does do a compilation. So if you go to the next slide. For OS Linux, finding out what you need. So we have a system check script for that. It's all in one script, versioncheck.sh. You run that, it'll say what you have, what you're missing, and what you need to install. Next. So Java, as I just said, the JRE is sufficient for almost everything. If you're interested in the building a smarter application, which will be later this afternoon, you'll actually need the JDK to be installed. And to install it if you need it and you don't have it, we have it on the USB stick for you. We have a copy for each OS. So you go down there. If you are a Linux user, the README has a lot more details. It's not quite just a point and click and follow the instructions install, but we expect the Linux users probably used to that kind of thing. For R, again, we just have for OS X and for Windows, you just go into the folder for your OS and look at the R folder, double-click that icon, and follow the instructions, and it'll tell you how to install R. We have also put RStudio on all the flash drives. A lot of people like to use that. It's a sort of more comfortable environment for doing the R development, but it's not required. So depending on your OS version, the next thing you'll want to do after you install R is actually make sure you have all the necessary R packages. The R packages we have for you to install today, some of those are not, we only have a very small number of requirements for H2O itself, but we have a lot of the demos are using other packages to look at various aspects or to do comparisons and things like that. So we have a list, and they also have a certain order some of them need to be installed in, but if you just go into the appropriate directory and then run the rcmd install once you have R installed, it'll take care of that. Next slide. Windows, it's actually very similar. You're just going to that directory on the flash drive and doing the rcmd install. Next slide. And again, Linux users, you're probably used to this part. There's just too many instructions to put on a slide neatly for the, just a few too many, really. So for the H2OR package, it's just, we have those in a separate folder, so the rcmd, this makes sure it gets installed last after the dependencies have been installed. You go rcmd install H2O. There is a talk on ensembles that is only available right now for R. And so if you go to the ensemble folder, you can install the package for that. Next slide. Once you've got your R set up, you're going to want to set up your Python. For OS X, we have a copy of Python there for you to click on and follow the directions that you need. Then you'll go and you'll install the two requirements we have, which is request and tabulate, so that we have another directory with those packages available for you. Pip install, pretty straightforward. Next slide. Windows, we're using WinPython, which is self-contained. That's kind of nice. So you can actually have several versions of Python there, and they tend to be they're not going to interrupt with each other or mess with each other. So then for the H2O package, we have that in its own directory. So now you have the requirements installed for H2O's package on Python. It's another pip install. Pretty simple. It's the same on all OSs. Let's see, for the standalone. So if you are running the standalone H2O, like we'll have some talks where the user might go through Flow. As you just saw, the new web interface that we have. What you'll do is you can just type, there's a jar file in a folder on the stick. And so that you basically will put that jar file wherever it's convenient for you. You just then say java-jar H2O jar, and it runs. That's all you need to do to run H2O. If you want to limit the memory footprint of your jar, you can do that. I think we've made it so that all the demos we're showing today can run in 2 gigs or less. Well, let's go back one last thing. Once you have that, if you want to then see Flow running, or see H2O running through Flow, you would then open a browser and go to localhost 54321. And that'll connect you to that H2O server. All right. We do have a sparkling water demo, and then later a PySparkling, which is Python and sparkling water. So that's H2O on Spark. H2O on Spark connected to, driven by Python. We don't have it for Windows, and at least for today. We still need to do some more testing on that. So Sparkling Water OS Linux, for those of you interested in that talk and do want to install it and you have the working through the correct OS, it's pretty straightforward. We actually just have some compressed files, tarballs and zip files, and you just basically bring those and extract the wherever it's convenient for you and extract the contents. So that's pretty straightforward. Now there's a tutorials data folder under H2O World 2015 training. Probably better to read and run the demos for most of the demos, to run them off of the disk so you can put them into wherever it's convenient for you, desktop or wherever you like. For each hands-on demo, you will run R or Python in the directory of that given demo, because they all have a relative file path to the data for that. And so the H2O server, when you start a demo, will actually start wherever you type whatever directory you're in when you type H2O init. And so then it'll find the data directories. If you happen to be using RStudio, you will need to go into that directory of the given demo and then do a set WD, so that before you do an H2O init, so that H2O sees the correct directory and can find the data. We have helpers all around, so if anybody's having any issues with their installs, please raise your hand and they'll come and help you. Final thing is just a note on the virtual machine image. Right now that image is, the people who have a disk with the image are actually just the helpers, so if you need that, raise your hand and they'll come around and help you. And so if you don't have VirtualBox, they'll install a VirtualBox on your OS. The VM file for that happens to be over the limit of what the common file systems could hold on a flash drive. Do we have helpers to help? Yeah. Amy, can you help some folks? And who else do we have here? So we've got Arno helping. So okay, so then that last slide. Essentially, what you'll do with the VM image is there's 3 files that need to be joined together. You'll do that, and then we have an OS-specific README that tells you how to do that. It's different on each OS. Finally, you'll open VirtualBox and import the VM image. We've got helpers to help you with that. So like I said, just raise your hand, and they should have a copy of that, and they can come by. As I said, the demos aren't going to start until 10 on this stage, and I think 10:45 on the other stage, so you have time to get that install. Just keep raising your hands for people to help. We've got Hank just came in. So, what's that? Yes, yes. So when I say raise your hand, I actually mean both stages. So I will be over at the other stage in just a few minutes. And so just keep your hands raised and people will come around and help you. And with that, I think we'll move on to the next talk for each stage.
All right. Okay.